Tom creates sin. Um, like I want to press the arrow on Telegram to post the link, and Tom did something with his soul matter to make the arrow dirty so that I committed a sin by clicking on the arrow to publish the link. And so he must be high up in the Catholic Church to create situations where people do what they would normally do, nothing wrong with it, nothing illegal about it, but they make it a sin because they want the power over the other person to feel guilt. Harry was big on that. But Harry was such a dick that it didn't really matter. I would see Harry's judgment. I would see it. I experienced it. And over the sex matter, when I found out that Don and Harry knew every sexual partner I'd had, and may have arranged all of them, when I found out that they knew about all my sex partners, which I thought was a private matter between me and that partner, I felt a lot of shame because they were strict Catholics and they believed in being a virgin before you were married if you were a woman, and all this kind of stuff. Turns out they were Satanists in the underground, torturing infants, children, and others, and committing all kinds of crime with legal protection. Like every layer of law enforcement I ever saw, always protected a Satanist when there was evidence against them. But anyway, it took me a couple years to get over that shame, and I realized, which I knew at the time when I was feeling guilty about it, is that it helped me to have sex. I mean, it was pleasant and felt good, but also there was an element of touching and sometimes snuggling or sleeping with someone. Sleep, like falling asleep. And it benefited me to have those sexual partners and to have that contact with others. But, like Tom, the Catholic Church created situations which are natural and not illegal, things that people do in normal life, and made them into a sin so that they could control us with guilt. And that's about the paradigm. I don't see Tom as the Pope, but he's very high up. I don't know who he would be. Maybe they don't publicize who these higher ups, maybe higher than the popes, would be. I don't believe that. I don't know how much you're gonna get on the long video that I'm uploading now. It's like 3 hours. But we were talking about maybe there aren't such things as external demons that you get into your soul when you do a ritual or sell your soul. But maybe it's you and your lower nature. You keep exploring your lower nature, the more harm you do to others, that it's you. And also that these people may have had lifetimes of doing grave harm. Now, I doubt heaven would recycle them. I doubt heaven would call them to heaven or wherever at the end of their lives and try to encourage them to learn the lessons, that prevented them from enjoying life, and try in the next lifetime. Satanists probably recycled each other. Because heaven has the children of God and children in the universe's best interest at heart, and wouldn't allow a sick soul to go through a cycle of learning lessons when it was clear that they clearly hadn't in other lives or tried to. So I'm thinking, well, I still think every lifetime is a new opportunity. But they could have been people who had been recycled and born as infants then and had a whole new opportunity to work through their problems or something. Inside, we know what we have to do. And I don't think the universe or God is a harsh taskmaster. God doesn't want us to have to struggle and experience pain and betrayal and discomfort and poverty and pain and pain and pain and pain to learn our lessons. He doesn't teach that way. So, Satan has really had control of a lot of children. A lot of real children, well, that's debatable, but a lot of children who experience, being good people and trying to be good, experience Satanism, at least in a facsimile way. I don't know. I experienced Carol Seifer as a sweet person when she was my mentor during Campus Life Youth for Christ. But then she turned a cold shoulder at me when Martha Brown invited me to go look up Carol Seifer with her. And Carol wouldn't invite us in. She didn't seem happy to see me. And then I visited Carol with Richard Henning Jr. and my son Rich in White Plains, New York. She was a guidance counselor in a college. And it was nice to see her and talk to her. I was a little disappointed because she treated me more like an appointment than perhaps an old friend, because there wasn't much age difference between us. She may have been 24 when I was 16 or something. And when you get past a certain point, when you get over 30, those years don't count that much. But she said she could give me a few hours, like an appointment or something. And I told her that I had learned that my parents were Satanists, and I was raised in a satanic home. And she didn't know much about it, and she said, when I talked to her about this and that, she said she had been experiencing fugue states that have concerned her, and she's wondered about her childhood. And she gave me 2 phone numbers to contact her, because even though I did tell her, Carol, I could probably mentor you in some ways with this business about Satanism, because I already knew a lot about it and had experienced, remembered things and stuff like that. But she still treated it like she was a therapist and I was a client. She said, well, you could call me once a month. It's like, that's not the point. I wasn't looking for counseling. But anyway, the following month I called her at one of the numbers she gave me. She picked up the phone and I said, hi, it's Laura, how you doing? And she panicked. And she said, well, I'm in the middle of the meeting. How did you get this number? And I said, you gave it to me. Excuse me. And we got off the phone, and I realized she didn't remember giving me the number. Now, I understand that I was not married to Richard Henning Jr. He was a bigamist. So his marriage to me was not legal, and I was never married. So I am a single woman, not even a divorcee. I mean, I went through the exercise of divorce because the world around me that reinforces this notion that I am the Holy Spirit of God and must be destroyed at all costs would allow me to go through the agony and expense of a divorce when I was never in a legal marriage, because that's what the legal structure is in my world anyway. Um, but Richard Henning Jr. pretended to marry me so he could look at my journals, follow me around, listen to the things I said, take note of the things I watched on TV, things like that. So he probably had the shit tortured out of Carol because he knew I was fond of her and stuff like that. So that was probably the end of her. Anyway, so my experience of Carol is that she was probably a person with multiple personality disorder, which always comes from childhood trauma. Always. There's just no other source for multiple personality disorder. So that's what I can conclude about Carol. You know, Carol, or a likeness thereof, has been in this vicinity for a while, but, you know, she very well may have turned evil. I don't know. I don't know for sure, because I never saw her after that White Plains College incident. And when I called her, she didn't know how I got that number, though she gave it to me. I do think she's probably evil. She probably went, you know, through stages of not knowing what was going on in her life, losing track of time and not knowing about it, stuff like that. Well, it's Monday morning. I haven't really slept tonight. I was laying down and then God woke me up. Well, I wasn't asleep, but he got me out of bed at 3:11. And the witching hour is 3:15 a.m. But so it says you can't argue with my logic. I mean, sacred texts, they know have been altered. Like, King James took out all the wisdom books. Ecclesiasticus, the Book of Wisdom, and the other three. I think there are 5 wisdom books. The Book of Wisdom is also called the Wisdom of Solomon. Anyway, and Jesus probably said a lot more than is quoted and attributed to him in the New Testament. The things that got through were very important to me, and probably to a lot of people. Paul got through. Paul got through. I used to think he was such a pig asshole. You know, a chauvinist, misogynist, or something. But I've been able to rethink at least one point that he made more than once, I think, about if you don't have an overwhelming need for sex, don't get married. But if you do have an overwhelming need for sex, you know, get married or something. Marriage, who even knows? I mean, rich people arrange the marriages of their children. There are certain people they won't allow them to marry. They have to be of a certain class and culture and religion. And maybe for for the rest of us, who don't accept that paradigm from our parents, we get assigned government personnel to be our assigned husbands. So maybe the Apostle Paul knew more than he was saying, more than he was explaining. And I've talked twice now about Herod. In the time of Jesus, Herod was alerted by whomever that the King of the Jews, the Messiah, had been born. And apparently alerted that a child had been born in his area of authority. And he ordered all male infants ages 1.5 and younger to be murdered. And Mary and Joseph took Jesus and left. But I believe that the Jews were torturing infants back then. It's been pointed out to me that the Romans were not even half as bad as the Jews. Not even a fraction. That they are innocents compared to the Jews. The Jews have an overwhelming desire to destroy the King of the Jews and the Holy Spirit of God. I have been a target my whole life. I'm 62 years old. This paradigm has gone on for 18 years now in my waking life, and about 18 million years in the passage of time, because I was so tortured that I have needed a lot of time to rest and be restored, and God is restoring me. When I knew Paul in real life every day, or almost every day, daily life, and worked for him at Walden Books, I wasn't troubled by anything. I really wasn't. I knew I was a survivor of ritual abuse. I knew there was a load of mess in my subconscious. I knew that. But me, myself, I had made choices to avoid evil, and I did what the Bible said, and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't troubled. I loved working, and I loved Paul, and it was a pang in my stomach that to have Paul, I might have to leave work. It's like, shit. Yes, I would choose Paul. I would, and leave work, but I loved working. And it's probably more than just having the ability to make a living, which I didn't. I worked part-time at a low wage, well, above minimum wage, but more than some employees, but not a living wage. And so I really wasn't earning a living. But to be empowered to work and earn money so that someday I could take care of myself or something like that, it just meant so much to me. Plus being around books, even though the novels were good, the fiction was good, the nonfiction was really, nonfiction like philosophy or things like that, really poor. No really good, interesting UFO books or anything. A lot of Wicca stuff. A lot of Wicca. So, it wasn't secretly in my heart. I was open with Paul about it, in my heart, the way we communicated, in our hearts and in our minds. That it just made me a little sick to my stomach that I'd have to give up something I love so much for someone I love so much. But I would for Paul. He's worth those kind of choices. And I would adjust. I would grieve and hope I could get a different job, but working around books was the best thing. It was the best thing. So Paul is my leader. He is my guide. He teases me to death to trust my own instincts and not wait for his guidance, which is a joke in this paradigm. I can't get through this without God. God knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It's like, kind of as always, I'm stuck between Harry and God. Harry had full control over my life. And then God was the man I appealed to help me and hear me, and then eventually hear that there are children being tortured on this planet, and somebody's got to pay attention to this shit. And apparently the universe was. I'm not sure what was so key about me having acquired all this information, all this knowledge, that made it so important that I get to be, I get to have this voice. You know, I did, but I didn't do it to. I would have liked to one day. Well, I don't know. You know, they have speakers who are survivors of ritual abuse and mind control, and they go to conferences and they take turns, they speak and stuff like that. I was never quite comfortable with thinking about that. Excuse me. Because you can't really sum anything up in a 30-minute speech or something. I don't know. The speaking circuit, I don't mean the paid speaking circuit. But God has let me have this voice, and He has prompted me to say things that I learned that I would never say out loud. I mean, not because they're bad or anything, but just private little things that I've collected in my head, you know, on my journey. And God has pretty much wanted it all out there. So, I'm going to upload this and stop the sound recording, and I'm going to listen to some music. Because I need music. That's how God stays in touch with me. I'm going to stop recording on the sound recorder. And I'm going to call this Herod. Herod the Jew. Share. Great. Share. Can you do that? So. Mm. Okay. Mm. Guess that's okay. I'm testing this to see. I put it on HD setting instead of FHD. I'm trying to get the files to be smaller. They're huge. So I'm testing this. Let me talk for about 30 seconds and see how much memory it takes up. Okay, I'll try this. Oh, pardon me. I don't know how I got on this. Satanists don't want me listening to the song La 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 If I Had You by Bobby Sherman, because they don't want me to love God and they don't want God to love me, because they don't want me to be happy and they don't want God to be happy. God and I are illegal. We're illegal as individuals. I don't know how an individual can be illegal. I can see how an individual can do something illegal, but to actually be illegal kind of escapes me. But God, Paul Geishen, is illegal as a human being. I am illegal, Laura Landsberg, and if I use this finger to pick my nose instead of this finger to pick my nose, that's a sin. So we're in a Catholic paradigm that's gone out of control. Harry would like the poster of what he looks like now on the astroplane to be posted all over the United States, like Stalin's picture was posted all over Italy, right? Stalin? Franco? Stalin was Russia? I don't know who the fuck Stalin was. Anyway, Harry would like his picture as he is now on the astroplane to be posted all over the United States and heavily in Washington, D.C., so that he can be the official dictator of the United States. Harry says it's appropriate because he had control of the Holy Spirit of God, and that makes him the most powerful man in the United States. I'm not exactly sure what control he had over me. He did have the power to make me feel guilty about fucking, you know. And if I'd gotten pregnant, I would have had an abortion if I lived at Donna and Harry's house. I would never be able to survive those kind of recriminations. So, fucking is a sin. That's Catholic. Being gay is a sin in the Catholic eyes, but the cardinals are all fags. So, you go figure. Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover must have been high up in the Catholic Church. He was a homosexual, but he targeted homosexuals. Let's see, Gone. I'll look at you. Uploading. Mm-hmm. Right. Is there anything I can do about that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Cut. Okay. That's a video. Video. Sound recording? Sound recording. Okay. Here the Jew. Okay. Share renewed. Oh. I don't know where that comes from. Oh, is that Herod the Jew? Mm-hmm. That's not Herod the Jew, that's older. Some video. Dino says he hasn't been able to hurt me the way he did the first time in 80 and 81. But he keeps trying. He keeps trying to get my love back so that I'll love him so much that he has the power to hurt me. But Dino hasn't been human for a long time. He's appealed to his basest nature since he was a teenager, I think, by killing children, torturing children, murdering infants, and things like that. That appeals to your lower nature, just in case you're a little confused. He had a good workup, 6 months of a nice time, with lots of loving, lovemaking, and all that kind of stuff. And then it took him a year to pick me apart, piece by piece, until there was very little left. And then he had Donna and Harry sicked on me, so that they'd pick apart the tiny little part that was still left, and they'd pick it apart and destroy it and discredit it and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, Dino's trying to work back up. I mean, he's in my house uninvited, doing poopy on my rug, and peeing on my rug, and God knows what else. He's admitted to torturing, at this point, millions. Millions. Between infants, children, and women, it's millions. Dino wants everyone in the universe to see all the men he's tortured and programmed, transcribed and televised. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm. There's that film. It's over. Anyway, Dino's come here talking about having tortured infants, children, and women. And he thinks that he can earn the kind of mentorship over me that he earned before I knew he tortured infants, children, and women. And me. I think he's miscalculating. When people are utterly destroyed by certain types of personalities who use certain methods to earn the trust and denigrate the person and the relationship, women who have some bouncy learn from that and bounce back and realize not all men in the world are like that. Now, if you're me, that's not actually true. I got to date assigned men, assigned by the Air Force, assigned by the Army, assigned by the Marines. But then I met Paul, and I met a human being. And Satanists think he's God because he's a human being who just chooses not to torture children. One of those weirdos. So, I met another human being after being ushered through life by Satanists entirely. They even repopulated Killian Senior High to make sure the ratio was more Satanist than not. And I met Paul, who thought I was pretty and kind of liked me and stuff, and I thought, wow, I didn't know anybody would do that to me. I mean, I was an old Ukrainian washerwoman, married 18 years person. Anyway, I experienced wonderful spiritual experiences with Paul, communicating with him in my heart and in my mind. He kind of filled me and guided me, and I felt passionately in love with him. And it turns out he's just not a Satanist. So one day I'm going to have a shitload of friends. I mean, you may be God too. But nobody needs a God when this is over. He can just be Paul and, garden or something. I don't know if he gardens or not. But he can just be Paul. He doesn't have to be God anymore. But in this paradigm, with what Satanists have done and paradigms they've created and all this kind of stuff, he's had to be God. He's had to be God to try to help the people of the earth and find crevices through which Satanists' watchfulness and power and military and government and blah, 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 a little crack in them so they could reach through and get some of those poor and the oppressed. As far as I can tell, it hasn't been easy. Satanists kind of multiply themselves into many people by being willing to give up their soul to continue on this paradigm. They get to do an impactful, hot, fast burn because they're giving up their souls. Their actions towards others are more impactful than if they hadn't given up their souls. But the term is shorter. We're 18 million years for an eternal soul, and God's been giving me an idea of how long eternity is, and it's a lot longer than 18 million years. So, excuse me. They are impactful. They are multiplied to keep the poor and the oppressed from the earth from rescue. God says I was stupid enough to think he would destroy the earth. There are times I just didn't see anything of value on the earth. I didn't know for sure or anything. I was kind of a theory that I was sent to assess and assay how they behave. And I simply had no contact with people who weren't Satanists, so that affected my assessment. But God says that even that, not that much, because I relied on facts and information and research and stuff. But, you know, they are able to make me feel like I'm choking and things like that because they're using their eternities on a really fast, very high temperature burn to keep the impact going on me. They don't like to see me happy. These are people I worked with or saw at church or listened to their church. What do you call it when a Catholic priest? The eulogy? When he goes, blah, blah, and we all love Jesus. You know, it's like, yes. That's living faith. That's living faith. And then they go fuck the Cardinals. Michelle Pfeiffer's the first one that had my boobs. It's very uncomfortable not to have your own boobs, or to have your upper arms have sex with your boob just by touching it. It's like I've never had body parts that had sex with each other before. That's what Satanists are able to do. And now they're concerned that they are responsible for their own actions. That it wasn't that they gulped down demons and the demons made them do things. It's just they kept indulging in criminal behavior and harmful behavior, really harmful behavior. And they kept developing their lower natures. They wanted to blame it on demons, but I think the demons were within them. God says the kingdom of heaven is within you. Well, for people who, and anyone could, for people who choose to do harm to others, I'm sure the kingdom of hell is also within you. And they're both spiritual worlds, I guess. You know, spirits came and helped me when I prayed a lot. You know, when I was really in trouble. So I guess I'm wrong. It's not just that the demons come from their own inner personality. There probably is a demon world where demons will help them if they want to sell their souls. Of course, if you trust a demon, you don't understand the definition of a demon. Or in Dino's case, you do, and you trust him completely, explicitly. Wait a minute. Completely. Explicitly? No. I don't know the word. Every step of the way, every word, everything. Dino says he's trusted demons and hated me with a passion that is unparalleled in all of time, I believe. Maybe. Bob Dylan might be worse than Dino. As far as I know, he never had any direct contact with Bob Dylan, either in a waking or sleeping state. Because he's a VIP, you know. And they're careful who they associate with. They don't want people telling other people, "Hey, Bob Dylan fucked me last night while I was asleep. I wasn't supposed to wake up, but there he was." That would be appropriate. That would fit. I don't think it's true, but it would fit. And I'm just getting high. God likes me high. I'm not gonna say what this is. The package says less than 0% THC. But hemp seems to be replenishing my soil. I'm missing a tooth. There's nothing I can do about it right now. I, I gotta meet a rich man and get some bridge work done. I don't recommend Maryland bridges. I'm not sure what the intention is behind a Maryland bridge, but it might provide more toxic mercury than ordinary fillings. I know I had a Maryland bridge that had 2 teeth on it. That's why I had 2 Maryland bridges, because they each attached to 1 tooth on the either side. And the plaque in my lower teeth, I never had a plaque build up in my lower teeth until I got the Maryland bridge. And then, I guess the dentist was evil, because dentists can be evil. And Don and Harry sent me to him. I thought he was a nice man and a professional. His wife was a twat. His daughter, if that was true, was a unbelievably talented, graceful piano player, pianist, concert. That's Laura Maxey. I should look her up. Because she's got to be evil. She wouldn't be graceful and gentle if she weren't evil. Because she ain't me. Only the Holy Spirit of God is graceful and gentle. We all know that. And Laura Maxey, like 99 out of 100 kids, would obey their parents. Let's see if we can find her and ruin her life. Laura Maxey, Lola Biviva. A piano bar? Okay. Laura Maxey, Epic 5. Or Ricard. They're serious. They had Richard Maxey was my dentist. Don and Harry sent me to him. So he's evil. They actually had him give me 2 Maryland bridges so that I would build up plaque on my lower teeth because there was nothing wrong with my teeth and I didn't have to floss and I didn't have plaque. They actually fucking did this. I paid $800 for 2 Maryland bridges in 1983. And Maryland, of course, is the land of evil. When I figure that out, I'll tell you why. Something about Laura Maxey and a wood-paneled piano lounge with a full bar. Maybe she tortured children before she played that piece in front of me. I mean, she obviously played it for my benefit, even though there were other people there. Okay. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 I'm in a paradigm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Mhm. 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 God says Laura Maxey tortured me before that performance. Probably the night before. Donna and Harry are some pretty unsavory people. He started out as a hoodlum, she started out as a Saigon horror. And they proceeded to appeal to their lower natures and found a spirit world that supported them in their greatest endeavors. Just like I found a spirit world that supported me in surviving and keeping my soul, because that was my choice. Excuse me. This is very draining work because Laura Maxey gave a wonderful performance, and I have thought highly of her ever since when I've thought of her, which isn't often. But she's been brought up here a lot. So as soon as I get some food in me, I'm going to see if I can find more on Laura Maxey. So far we got a piano lounge with a full bar. Which means, since I love Richard Henning Jr., she hasn't had access to torture me before her concerts. Dino Jose has no need for safety, and I ask that Dino be as unsafe as possible. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, to the power of an infinite number of infinities. They ask that their astral bodies be subjected to Mack truck hits and things like that. Several universes were created to devise violent mutilations of them. But they don't look like they've been hit by Mack trucks here. So I ask all the violence that all people of the universe have asked for them, occur to them here in the astral plane in their astral bodies. And they may have to be astral Mack trucks. Affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, affirm, reaffirm, the power of an infinite number of infinities. The Bible says, my son, give power over yourself to no one in this lifetime. God doesn't want me to give power over myself to him. Which is fucking ridiculous. My whole life depends on him navigating me out of this shit. So I'm sorry, it's just not happening. I don't think it's exactly brave to not be a coward. They say you're brave if you'd rather just die than kill an infant or something. But you know, like if they shoot you to kill you, you may feel a little bit of the first impact of the bullet, but your angels will pull your souls out of your bodies or your spirits or whatever. You know, so you don't have to experience the pain. It occurs on an unconscious level. I forgot my point. There is a spirit world for whatever choices you make. I mean, there's only two choices. To fight against the universe and try to end it, or to try to live in the universe. I'm funny and I don't intend to be. It's just that Satanists are so illogical. And they're the scientists who have developed our medicine, modern medicine, like chemo and radiation and some of those Hep C treatments and all the things that make you sick because you've gone to the doctor. It's something I learned about medical school. I was a laboratory research student in high school, and I worked at the Rosenstiel School of Medicine in the microbiology lab. And the microbiology department head was a medical school professor. And he had me sit in on a class, but that isn't where I learned it, I don't think, in the class or anything. But I learned that a lot of the education medical students get come from drug companies that come in and teach them about a certain process or a certain drug. And then that's medical knowledge to the medical student. And then they're encouraged to use their drugs in the care of others. Now, we all know pharmaceutical companies are some of the most virtuous companies in the world. But, the medical students get a lot of training from, not drug salesmen, drug specialists from drug companies. So, there is a profit motive. I remember when we were still students at the University of Miami in the Science Center and stuff, and I hadn't learned that Debbie Katz was an evil piece of shit. We were talking one day. I said, what I want to do is practice medicine for 6 months out of the year and then take 6 months off. She said, are you crazy? I'm not going through all this education just to work for 6 months out of the year. Meaning that's not enough money for her. But do you understand how that sounds? I've been tortured myself and tortured infants to get through medical school so that I could just work 6 months out of the year and not collect pay after that. And Dr. Craw told me in a therapy session once that her professor told her when she was in med school, you can't absorb anything after you've read for an hour or an hour and a half. So, just do an hour and a half, and then walk away. She didn't say how long she was supposed to walk away. But I happen to know firsthand that medical students and law students, they get home from class and that's it. They're reading until 4 in the morning. Law students, Diane Seberg, Shulman Seberg, she had to read like half of a huge fucking text in one night. And I only assume this part from Paper Chase. But you can get drilled on the tiniest point of this boring shit law. Well, apparently when drugs stopped working, making them decent students, they started torturing infants because it seems to be a real solution to some people for some problems. Go get me some. Oh. Paul's the only person I know in this town. He better guide me. Otherwise, I'm at the mercy of Satanists and might become homeless. Oops. It is my understanding that God has shown selective Satanists some of my homes, some of our homes, his and mine, some of his, at least one of his homes. And they squeal like pigs at the hugeness of them and the beauty of them. And then they have diarrhea in the astral plane because it's so exciting for them. And that's what they do when they're excited. They have diarrhea. And it does smell sometimes, and they fart sometimes. And it's bad. But they don't understand how Paul and I could live in such meager financial environments that we live in. Not because Satanists have made us poor, not because of that, or that they've stolen our money, inheriting from real Earth 3D families, using Israel to place us genuine heirs and heiresses, in real Earth. I don't know if it's all royalty, but it's, the richest class. They don't understand how we could live in such poverty and still enjoy our lives, but, I have a Social Security income, and I was able to buy a Kindle. And then when they stole the first one when I lived at St. Peter's Place, and it's hard to tell if management stole it because I guess they came into my apartment every day, or if Rob and Jamie Mortensen stole it. But after a couple years of my Social Security income, I was able to buy another Kindle. So, I can read just about anything I want on my Kindle. Most of it for free. And you don't need to live in a castle to read a Kindle. Anyway, Satanists wonder how Paul and I can put up with it, considering we have such wealth elsewhere in the universe. On Earth too, but we're just trying to get it. Oh. However, Satanists have made us poor. They've stolen our money. They rip us off in jobs and stuff. They alter our checking accounts as they're active, as they're happening. They overcharge us for things they charge other people much less for. And when we do buy something, they do their best to ruin it, so we have to buy it again if we want it. I've had this Kindle for I don't know how long now. I had it in the shelter for a while. I kept it in a locker, a locked locker, because within 48 hours of me buying a Samsung tablet, that was my dream to have. It was just beautiful. I didn't buy the warranty on it. It was stolen out of the homeless shelter, my room in the homeless shelter. I had a roommate. That's when things started turning up missing. Thomas Gardner would like to point out to you people, the people of the universe, how unhappy I've been. How genuinely unhappy. Well, Donna Jean Bachman-Landsberg says, me being unhappy enhances her life, so fuck me. But there is a God, and there are such things as human and universal rights, and I get to have them eventually. I know for sure I'll have rights someday. I don't know if Paul's as oppressed as I am, but I'm relying on him to restore my rights. He's gonna have to do all of it for me. So, I don't know. I hope he doesn't have too many problems of his own. That's a load of crap. I've got to upload this because I'm very eloquent. Dino says he has his servants feed him milk out of almond. He doesn't put them in his own mouth.